everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to unlock a superpower you might not even realize you have.
Oh, a superpower.
Yeah, the power of perfect timing.
Timing. Huh, okay.
You know, it's behind everything from, like, a comedian's perfect punchline or
hitting that perfect note in a song.
Exactly. We're going to be diving deep into all that and more today, drawing on some fascinating excerpts from the book Mastering the Art of Perfect Timing.
I actually just started reading that one. It's pretty good so far.
It really makes you think, like right off the bat, it claims that timing is everything.
Well, yeah, I can kind of see that.
But at first, honestly, I wasn't so sure. It felt a little,
A little dramatic.
Yeah, a little over the top. But the more I read, the more I realized that, well, it's more than just hyperbole.
It really is everywhere when you start looking for it.
It really is, like, woven into the very fabric of how we exist.
Like how our brains work. Did you know that our brains actually communicate with our bodies at 268 miles per hour?
Whoa, hold on. 268 miles per hour.
That's what the book says. 268 miles per hour. Isn't that wild?
That's insane. That's like our nervous system is like the ultimate high-speed internet connection or something.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that insane speed is what lets us react instantly.
Like when you're driving and someone slams on their brakes in front of you?
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just about reflexes then. It's about every decision we make, no matter how big or small.
Every single one. But it gets even more interesting when you think about how timing governs entire ecosystems.
Ecosystems.
Like predator and prey populations. They rise and fall in perfectly timed cycles.
Oh, right.
And flowers bloom when pollinators are most active. It's like nature has some kind of internal clock that keeps everything in sync.
Wow. You know, I never thought about it that way. It's like we're all part of this grand symphony of time, from the tiniest cells to the entire planet.
We are. And our brain is the conductor of this symphony.
The conductor. Okay, I like that.
Our brains are constantly tracking time on multiple levels.
Yeah. Well, we all know about the circadian rhythm, right? Our internal clock that tells us when to sleep and wake up.
Right. That's like the master clock.
But how else does the brain keep track of time?
It also tracks time on a much, much finer scale. Like milliseconds. Milliseconds is crazy, right?
What could we possibly need that kind of precision for?
Well, imagine trying to hit a tennis ball.
Okay, yeah.
You have to judge the speed, the spin, the trajectory, all in like a fraction of a second.
Right.
Well, your brain is actually predicting where that ball is going to be milliseconds before it gets there.
Our brains are basically time travelers.
They are. They're constantly predicting the future.
But it's not actually magic, though, is it?
No, it's not magic.
So is there like a timer ticking away up there?
Not a timer, exactly. Our brains have these things called neural oscillations.
Neural oscillations? Never heard of those.
Well, they're rhythmic patterns of brain activity. They help synchronize different areas of the brain.
Like a conductor?
Yes. Like a conductor coordinating different sections of an orchestra.
I'm starting to get the picture.
So these neural oscillations are super important for, well, basically everything from how we perceive the world to how we move our bodies.
Give me an example.
Okay. Trying to catch a ball. If your neural oscillations are off, your timing will be off, you'll miss the catch.
Yeah, okay. I get it.
And the same thing is true for things that are more complex, like playing an instrument or just having a conversation.
So what happens if these neural oscillations get messed up?
Have you ever had too much coffee?
Who hasn't?
And felt all jittery and uncoordinated?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's basically your brain's timing circuits going haywire. And sleep deprivation, even worse.
You're saying I shouldn't be pulling all-nighters.
Well, studies show that sleep deprivation can actually reduce your reaction time by like 300%.
300%. Whoa.
So yeah, it's like trying to play a fast song on a record player that's running at half speed.
Everything is just off.
Exactly.
So besides getting enough sleep, is there anything we can do to, improve these neural oscillations?
There is. The book talks about this. Mindfulness meditation can actually be really helpful for improving temporal awareness.
Temporal awareness?
Yeah, it's basically your ability to perceive and experience time accurately.
Huh.
Studies have shown that meditating regularly can actually strengthen those neural circuits that are responsible for timing.
So being mindful can make us better at timing?
It can.
That's really interesting. I'm going to have to look into that. So we've talked about how our brains are tuned to time, but what about the physical world outside our bodies? How does timing play out there?
It's amazing, right? Timing isn't just confined to our brains. It impacts the physical world, too.
Yeah.
And it all starts at the tiniest level of the atom.
Wait, atoms are involved in timing, too?
Everything vibrates at the atomic level.
Really?
And these vibrations are called quantum oscillations.
Quantum oscillations, huh?
And they are incredibly precise, and rhythmic. They actually define the structure of matter itself.
My mind is officially blown. Okay, so we've gone from brainwaves to atoms, and it seems like everything is governed by some kind of rhythm. Timing really is everywhere.
It is. And then there's this concept of resonance.
Resonance. Doesn't that have something to do with sound?
It does. You know how a singer can shatter a glass with their voice?
Yeah.
That's resonance in action. It happens when one vibrating object makes another object vibrate at the same frequency.
Ah, okay.
And when those frequencies match up perfectly, it creates this huge amplification of energy.
So like everything's connected by this invisible web of vibrations and timing.
It is.
And this applies to a lot more than just sound, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It affects how ecosystems work and just so many things in the natural world.
It's almost like timing is less about a clock on the wall and more about this like fundamental force that shapes everything around us.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's essential for developing all kinds of skills, like in sports, music, dance.
Yeah. Think about a basketball player hitting that perfect jump shot.
Or a musician hitting every note flawlessly.
It's not just about instinct, is it?
No, it's not just instinct. We can actually train ourselves to have better timing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Athletes, musicians, dancers, they're all basically masters of time. They train their bodies and minds to react and perform with insane precision.
So one of the keys to mastering timing is, what? Prediction?
Exactly. Perfect
Yeah.
timing is all about predicting the future.
Predicting the future, huh? Tell me more.
Okay, well, think about a dog catching a ball.
Okay.
They don't sit there calculating physics equations in their heads.
Right.
They use something called optical acceleration cancellation.
Optical what now?
Optical acceleration cancellation. Basically, they adjust their running speed to keep the ball's trajectory steady in their field of view. Pretty neat, huh?
That's way too complicated for a dog. But seriously, that's pretty impressive.
It is.
So what about humans? How do we predict the future?
We use similar intuitive shortcuts. Like when you're driving, you anticipate other cars' movements so you don't crash. We're also really good at predicting patterns, like in music.
Yeah, you know what always throws me off? When a song suddenly changes tempo?
Yeah, it takes a second for your brain to readjust.
Yeah, exactly.
And these predictive powers are basically what make us good at things like, sports, music, and even strategy games.
So if we get better at anticipating, does that mean we can improve our decision-making too?
Yeah, exactly. The better we get at predicting outcomes, the better we can time our decisions to get the best results.
I'm starting to feel like timing really is a superpower.
It is.
But sometimes it just feels like luck, you know?
Or intuition.
I know what you mean. But that feeling of luck or magic is usually a combo of practice, biology, and awareness.
Okay.
Think about athletes who talk about being in the zone.
Where time slows down.
Exactly. It's like they're on another level of time.
Right.
But again, it's not magic. The book says that happens because our neural timing circuits are finely tuned.
So when these circuits are firing on all cylinders, our ability to see what's happening and react gets super sharp. Yeah. Our brains enter a state of hyper-awareness.
Wow. Okay, so we've explored timing in our biology, physics, the mind. But how do we actually use this in our lives? How do we become masters of timing in, our everyday lives?
That's where things get really practical.
Yeah.
And honestly, pretty fascinating. The book has some really interesting insights on how we can unlock our own timing superpowers.
Okay, I like where this is going. But first, we got to take a quick break.
Of course.
Okay, so we've established that timing is this incredible force that shapes our lives from the inside out. But how do we actually harness this power? How do we become masters of our own time?
Well, the book goes into some really practical strategies for improving our sense of timing.
Okay.
And, one of the most powerful aspects, and yet it's so often overlooked, is knowing when to wait.
Wait. Just wait.
Yeah, the power of the pause.
Okay, I get that pausing can be powerful, like in music or comedy. But in other situations, isn't there a risk of seeming, hesitant or indecisive?
That's a good point. It's all about finding the right balance. Think about a well-placed pause in a conversation.
Okay.
It can create intrigue, emphasize a point.
Right.
It can even, make your words more persuasive.
Just like strategic silence.
Exactly. And there's actual neuroscience behind it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Research shows that moments of silence, they actually activate the parts of our brains that are associated with decision-making.
Ah, interesting.
And when you pause, you give the other person time to really process what you're saying and engage more deeply.
It's funny, we often rush to fill silence when sometimes a pause is exactly what's needed.
We do, don't we? But nature offers some great lessons on this.
Oh, like what?
Predators. They often wait for the absolute perfect moment to strike.
Mhm.
Now, they conserve their energy until success is pretty much guaranteed.
So it's a lesson in what? Timing and restraint?
Exactly.
How do we know when that perfect moment is? How do we know when to act?
Learning to pause strategically is about reading the room, observing body language, even sensing the emotional, like the beat of a situation.
It sounds like being really present and attuned to those subtle cues is really important.
Absolutely. And when you can time your words or actions to align with those cues, well, you create opportunities that you might have missed otherwise.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier, how athletes, musicians, dancers, they train their timing to achieve peak performance.
Yeah,
But the book also talks about this idea of team timing
it does.
and how crucial that is for success.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about an orchestra playing in perfect harmony or a sports team executing a complex play.
Yeah.
Group timing is about achieving a level of synchronicity that just amplifies everyone's individual efforts.
So it's not just about individual talent, it's about how well everyone's actions fit together.
Exactly.
Are there any strategies that, our listeners can use to improve the synchronization in their own lives? Like at work or in their personal lives?
Well, the first step is to understand that humans, we just naturally synchronize with each other.
We do.
We do. It's called entrainment.
Entrainment.
Entrainment. Think about how people instinctively clap along to a song at a concert,
Oh, yeah.
or how rowing teams move as one.
Right.
It's like an invisible force pulling us into a shared rhythm.
It's true. I've experienced that myself.
And this innate ability that we have to entrain, it's really the foundation of effective team timing.
So like athletes who practice those plays over and over again.
Exactly. They're essentially building a shared rhythm.
Okay, so a lot of it comes down to practice and, building that sense of trust and shared understanding.
Right.
But what about like situations where you're working with people who, maybe aren't as invested in that kind of synchronicity?
Well, that's where communication and observation really come into play.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to recognize the rhythm of the collaboration and adjust your actions accordingly.
So like slowing down to let others catch up.
Yeah. Or, sometimes taking the lead and setting a clear tempo for the group.
So being adaptable and finding that flow within the group dynamic is important.
Very important.
Earlier, we talked about how our brains have these amazing timekeeping systems.
Right.
But the book also mentions how our environment can actually impact our sense of timing.
It's true. Our environment can actually impact our ability to, time actions effectively.
Okay.
The book talks about athletes under pressure.
Okay.
They often focus on external rhythms to, enhance their performance, like the bounce of a ball or the pace of an opponent's movement.
So they're using those external cues to kind of calibrate their internal clock.
Exactly. And we can actually use similar strategies in our own lives.
Right.
Well, setting timers for tasks can create a sense of urgency.
Ah.
And that can help us make decisions fast.
It's like giving yourself a deadline.
Exactly. And
Okay.
surrounding yourself with rhythmic activities, like walking, dancing, listening to music.
Right.
That can enhance your sense of internal timing, too.
I actually find that listening to music can really help me get into a flow state when I'm working.
It makes sense. Those external rhythms prime our brains to be more attuned to tempo and rhythm.
Which can, improve our focus and performance.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the power of pausing, syncing up with others, even hacking our environment for better timing. But even with all these strategies, aren't there going to be times when our timing is just off?
Oh, of course. Even the most skilled people, sometimes their timing is off.
Hmm.
But the book really emphasizes that, embracing failure is crucial for mastering any skill,
Including timing.
especially timing. So it's not about avoiding mistakes. It's about learning from them.
Exactly. Psychologists have actually found that our brains, they learn timing through trial and error.
Really?
When we mistime something, our brain actually recalibrates its internal clock to avoid making that same mistake again.
So each mistimed action is like a data point that helps us refine our timing in the future.
That's a great way to put it. Think about comedians honing their material.
They test jokes endlessly, they watch how the audience reacts, and they adjust their delivery until every beat feels effortless.
Right, right.
Their timing mastery is built on a foundation of, countless mistimed jokes.
Well, that's actually pretty encouraging. So even when we mess up, our brains are still learning and adapting.
They are.
The key is to view those moments as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. Not as setbacks.
So we shouldn't be afraid to experiment, even fail, when it comes to timing.
No, not at all. Embrace the learning process.
Yeah.
Mastering timing is a journey, not a destination.
It's about, constantly refining our sense of rhythm.
Exactly. And adapting to the, ever-changing beats of life.
The book doesn't just focus on the practical stuff.
It doesn't.
It also dives into some pretty profound ideas about how timing relates to, the essence of our existence.
It does. And those insights are really what make this book more than just a simple self-help guide.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's explore those deeper concepts in the final part of our deep dive. So we've explored, the science, the strategies, the practical side of timing, but the book takes us even further, right? It touches on how timing shapes our actual experience of life.
It does, yeah. And this is where things get really interesting, really thought-provoking.
Okay.
It argues that timing isn't just about, precision or efficiency. It's about recognizing that everything is fleeting.
Yeah. I mean, a sunrise only lasts for a few minutes, a perfect wave breaks in seconds. Even our lifespan is, pretty short on the cosmic timescale.
Exactly, and that's what gives meaning to timing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mastering the art of perfect timing isn't just about hitting every beat with precision.
It's about being present in each moment.
Exactly, and recognizing the value of each moment as it unfolds.
So appreciating those, fleeting moments of beauty, connection, even those moments of challenge or frustration, because they all contribute to this rich tapestry of life.
They do.
It all comes back to that idea from the book, right?
Right.
Mastering timing is about tuning into the rhythms of life.
It is. Recognizing that everything has its own season, its own perfect moment to,
To bloom.
Exactly.
You know what? I'm not always great at that.
Oh.
I tend to, rush things. Try to force outcomes.
I see.
Maybe that's why I feel out of sync sometimes.
Yeah, it's a common struggle.
It is.
It is. But the book reminds us that life has a natural ebb and flow. Sometimes, you got to push forward, take action.
Right.
And other times, it's about surrendering to the rhythm and patiently waiting for the right moment.
That ties back into the power of the pause, right?
It does. It's about knowing when to act and when to just be.
It's about finding that balance.
Exactly. Between action and stillness, effort and surrender.
And embracing everything that life throws our way.
Exactly. The highs, the lows, the triumphs, even the setbacks, right?
It's those variations that make life interesting.
Yeah. Like the pauses between the notes in music.
To give the music depth and beauty. This whole conversation has been really eye-opening for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm honestly walking away with a totally new perspective on
I'm
time.
glad to hear that. We've covered a lot, haven't we?
We have, from the science behind it all to the art of, actually using it in our lives.
We have.
And you know what? I'm feeling a sense of, a sense of empowerment.
Empowerment.
Yeah, because timing isn't this fixed thing, It's something we can actually cultivate, like a skill, a way of being we can practice.
It's not about controlling the clock.
It's about aligning ourselves with life's natural rhythms.
Exactly.
And realizing that those rhythms, they exist within us, in our brains, our bodies, and in the world all around us.
They do.
So, as we wrap things up here, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay.
We've talked about how understanding our personal energy cycles can help us be more productive. But how can we apply that to other areas of our lives, Our relationships, our creative pursuits, our well-being overall? How might tuning into our internal rhythms lead to a greater sense of fulfillment and purpose?
That is a great question. Something for all of us to think about.
It is. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and maybe even, life-changing. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep time on your side.